FPL Game Week 29 Meta Movement. My name is Benji, and today we're going to discuss the best defenders and midfielders for those of you who are planning to save your free hit chip this game week for 29. I've also got a spicy differential attacker who's ready to go straight into your lineups. Let's get into it. Thinking Cap activated. If you've got a free striker spot this week, or if you're just in the market for an FPL striker, I'd honestly consider picking up Bournemouth's Evanilson. He's priced at just 5.6 million, which is not a lot, and considering where his ownership is sitting at, just 1.8%, it's insanely low, and he's a massive differential pick in the game right now. Not only is Bournemouth's attack really decent, but their upcoming fixture run is also very encouraging. They've got 29 Brentford at home in 30. They've got Ipswich at home. So if you're somebody who's like looking to not free hit in 29 and then kind of stagger, at least dead end your team and then wildcard in game weeks 31, 32, then I think Evanilson is someone who'd fit your team really, really well. Diving into his underlying stats, Evanilson has some really positive underlyings, including his shot volume. He's averaging just under 1.5 shots on target per 90. That's top 4 among all strikers in the game right now. He does also offer some decent creative threat as well, sitting in the top 3 for chances created per 90. His non-pen XGI per 90 isn't anything to shout home about, but for 5.5 mil, I still think you're getting really good value. Some drawbacks with the Evanilson pick would be his weaker routes to points and the fact that he's not absolutely 100% nailed for consistent 90 minutes long term. I wouldn't be too concerned from an availability standpoint, but Evanilson isn't on pens. He's not taking any set pieces, and there are a lot of strikers who do have stronger routes to points, even strikers in and around his price category, the likes of Welbeck and João Pedro, who do have better routes to points. I still believe he is a very good pick. I still think you should consider him. You're accessing a top 6 quality attack. You're getting a very differential striker. And with the fixtures, he's my current favorite forward if you're in the market. There's been a few shifts to the midfielder power curve. Let's begin with that expensive price bracket, including Cole Palmer, Son, and Phil Foden, who's risen to the top now. And that's because City's good fixture run has arrived. Although Foden's only returned 10 GA this season, his underlyings are still pretty positive, and City's attack has been quite productive. With the next 2 fixtures being Brighton and Leicester at home, I think you could consider Foden in your FPL teams despite the price and despite that the fact that he hasn't been justifying his price point. He's still someone I'm personally considering in my own team just because of the fixtures, because we've seen even this season that Foden in good fixtures can deliver very decent points. Cole Palmer's been given a drop not only because of Chelsea's immediate fixture, but also because his form has been shocking recently. He's just missed his first career penalty. And look, I can understand why some are selling, but Chelsea do have a few good fixtures on the horizon. Tottenham in 30, Brentford in 31, Ipswich in 32, and Everton in 34. So there's a few good fixtures. There's still some reason to hold, and his recent data actually hasn't been that bad. If you can look to hold him, I'd probably recommend for you to do that. But if you absolutely need to sell him this week, I fully understand why. Just under the premium midfielders is that 8 million price bracket, and Bruno Fernandes sits right at the very top. Not only is he on a 3-game return streak, but he's also got Leicester away in 29, which is one of the best fixtures on paper. He is a captaincy candidate. If he didn't have Forest away the next week, I would be more comfortable in advocating for him, but ultimately I feel Bruno's just a little too short term for most of you if you're not free hitting, and the fact that we're also in the Europa League is another regressing factor. And Mbeumo's dropped a little bit, and that's due to Brentford's recent upcoming fixtures. I think they've got Bournemouth away, then Newcastle away, and then Chelsea, Arsenal, Forest. So there are a few tough games coming up for Brian and Mbeumo. And I also watched the Villa-Brentford game. I wasn't really impressed with Brian. I thought he had a few good chances where he could have done much better from those situations. So for me, Brian's form is on a little decline right now, but look at the returns this season. 20 GA is the second highest on this graphic, and because he does have a fixture in 29, I don't think he's a sell. From next game week onwards, we can have that conversation, but it's just too much of a luxury move to get rid of him. I wouldn't be considering Odegaard or Trossard just because Nwaneri's offering much better value, and Arsenal's attack isn't that fruitful where you'd be comfortable spending a 6 to 8 million on it. I don't think the fixtures justify that either, and that's why I'd recommend avoiding both of the more pricey Arsenal options. If you do want an Arsenal attacker, I believe Nwaneri's your best bet. And that does move us on nicely to the final category, which is that cheaper price bracket. And first off, if you don't own Justin Kluivert, I'd really recommend him. Bournemouth's next two fixtures are probably better than every single team in the league, apart from maybe Man City and Nottingham Forest. And you're getting Kluivert, you're getting the pens. He's now taking a few more corners, and it's just a smart strategy to go and pick him up. He's returned 18 GA this season, which is by far the best compared to any of those other midfielders in and around his price point. His 5 double-digit hauls this season highlight his explosive capabilities, and for me, he's an absolute no-brainer option if you're in the market and you don't own him. I've added Savinho from Man City in because if you're not free hitting, you're likely wildcarding pretty soon. You're probably targeting, 29, 30, and then wildcard in 31. So those 2 weeks are the weeks you're probably looking at for a midfielder, and that's why I like Savinho. City's next two are great, both games at home, and Savinho's in the double digits for returns. He's actually got more GA than Foden in the league this season, so he's a sneaky little option, a sneaky little punt, and if you want a differential guy, I like him. You can also look at the Nottingham Forest mids, Anthony Elanga, Gibbs White. For me, I'm just not really too hot on those Forest attackers just because most of them are competing with Chris Wood in the bonus, and he's just been a monster for racking up those extra points this year. If you did want one, I'd prefer Elanga just because he's a little bit cheaper and he's taking some set pieces and corners, and I've noticed Gibbs White has been a little bit deeper, playing a little bit deeper, tossed with a little bit more ball progression, but both are pretty similar. Just pick your poison there. I've given Semenyo a little drop just because of form. He's been racking up a few yellow cards, and as an owner, that's been pissing me off. But either way, I'm still keeping him until wildcard. Overall, I think there's a lot of good options for no free hit players. If you don't have Kluivert, definitely pick him up ASAP. Savinho or the Forest mids are good options, but I'd recommend definitely steering clear of the expensive Arsenal midfielders. Trossard, Odegaard, stay away from him. But Nwaneri, if you really want a budget guy, I think he's fine because he's a great value option. Not much has changed in the defender meta coming into 29. Forest assets are still at the top of most of the price brackets in terms of the power curve. And for me, I've actually just brought in Nico Williams myself in the place of Lewis Hall, who is out for the season after breaking a bone in his foot. So if you do own Lewis Hall, I'd look to be moving him on as soon as you can. Let's start with that cheaper price bracket, and first I'd be definitely looking to avoid Everton assets if possible. Their fixtures from 30 onwards are just shocking, including Liverpool away in 30. United defenders suffer from that same issue because even though the 29 fixture looks decent, that game in 30 is Forest away, a very tough fixture. For me, that's a dark red this season, dark red fixture, which is why the likes of Mazraoui, De Ligt, and Delo are situated quite low in the power curve this time round. If you're looking to move a lot of cash around this week, and if you need a very cheap enabler, I would consider this guy from Wolves, Agbadu, priced at 4 million. He's just returned from injury, playing 90 minutes against Everton in Wolves' most recent league fixture. Considering how good Wolves' fixtures are over the next 3 to 4 weeks, I wouldn't mind if you guys actually picked him up if you really need a really cheap guy. I prefer him 100% over a Scholes from West Ham, a Cresswell. I prefer him 100% over any of those guys. His teammate Aït-Nouri is an amazing buy this weekend. Ryan was one of our sleeper picks just a few weeks ago, and I absolutely love him if you can afford him. The fixture is great, and Aït-Nouri is just a very high upside asset, really attacking fullback, and as you can see from his GA total, he does produce returns, and with the fixture run being so good for Wolves, if those returns come with a clean sheet, you're going to be sitting very happy with Aït-Nouri in your team. Long term though, I prefer Milenkovic and Nico Williams over any of those other options. Forest defense have just produced so many clean sheets this season. They're joint level for the most clean sheets alongside Liverpool, and their fixtures from 29 all the way to game week 38 are amongst the best in the league. So long term, it's a good play. Short term, it's a good play. And for me, they are the best defensive investment for 29. I've finally given Kirkez and Huijsen rises in the power curve. That's because Zabarny, who's first choice center back under Andoni Iraola, he's actually back from suspension now, and he's available to face Brentford. He's been a massive miss over the last couple matches, and if you're in the market, let's say you've already got an Ola Aina and a Sells, and maybe you have a space for another guy, that's where I would consider a Bournemouth defender. If you want to save the funds, go for Huijsen, but both him and Kirkez are excellent. Arsenal defenders are pretty interesting because the next two fixtures, they're not bad fixtures, but I wouldn't say they're smooth sailing either. I don't think that Chelsea game is going to be a walk in the park, and I don't think that Fulham game is going to be either. Timber, I've given him a little drop just because Ben White has returned from injury, and that lowers his long-term expected minutes, but I still think he's likely to start the Chelsea game. Saliba, Gabriel, fine if you still own them, but I wouldn't be buying any of them fresh this week. I'd also steer clear of Gvardiol just because Brighton are in such hot form. They're on a 6-game winning streak in all competitions, and I'm expecting Hurtzeller's attack to score on Saturday. So yeah, Forest defense, first place in terms of investment. Bournemouth D, second place if you've already touched up a few Forest defenders. And if you're still needing someone, I'd go for a Wolves defender with Ait-Nouri, the luxury option, and Agbadou, the enabling option for 29. If you've enjoyed this one, then drop a like. If you're new around here, then hit subscribe. I'll speak to you in the next one. Peace.